The cafe began to empty as the night grew colder. Clara stayed seated, staring at the toy car, trying to piece together the fragments in her mind. Her thoughts drifted back to the years she tried so hard to forget the workshop's smell of metal and paint. The sound of laughter before everything fell apart. There had once been someone who said the same words that boy had. Daddy fixes broken things. Her breath caught. Could it be possible? No, it couldn't. That man had vanished long ago, leaving only promises and unfinished memories. Yet now, his child had spoken the same phrase that used to comfort her. The cafe door suddenly opened, and a rush of wind carried in the scent of rain and engine oil. Clara turned sharply. Standing there was the same man, drenched, silent, his eyes locked on hers. The boy peeked from behind him, clutching his sleeve. The man stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "You kept the toy," he said. Clara's world tilted. Her lips parted, but no words came. Everything she thought she'd buried was standing right in front of her. Clara's fingers trembled as she held the toy car tighter, her voice barely more than a whisper. "You." The man didn't move, his eyes searching hers with a kind of pain that felt old, worn, and too real. For a moment, the cafe seemed to fade. The clinking cups, the low hum of rain, everything went still between them. The little boy looked up at his father, then at Clara, sensing the strange tension in the air. "I didn't think you'd recognize me," the man finally said, his tone rough but gentle. "It's been years, Clara." Her breath caught at the sound of her name. "You left," she said shakily. "You disappeared without a word." He nodded slowly, guilt flashing across his face. "I had to, but I didn't know you'd end up here. Like this." The word stung, and she looked away, swallowing the lump in her throat. Before she could respond, the cafe door opened again, and a man in a dark coat stepped inside. Scanning the room before his gaze locked on them, he walked straight over, his expression unreadable but sharp. "Clara, I've been looking for you," he said quietly, ignoring the man beside her. "You shouldn't be talking to him. He's not who you think he is." Her heart pounded as she glanced between them, the father of the boy with kind eyes, and the man claiming to protect her. The child clung tighter to his dad's hand. The air grew heavy, and in that single breath, Clara realized someone was lying. But which one? Clara's pulse raced as the two men faced each other, tension crackling in the air like lightning before a storm. The cafe had gone completely silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. The man in the dark coat stepped closer, his voice calm but sharp. "He's been hiding things from you, Clara. You don't know what really happened the night he left." The boy's father clenched his jaw. "Don't do this here," he warned, his voice low. Clara stood between them, confused and trembling. "Someone tell me the truth," she demanded. "Please." The man in the coat looked at her sadly. "He didn't just leave, Clara. He was in that crash, the one that took your brother's life. He fixed the car that night. But something went wrong." Clara's breath hitched. Her brother. Memories rushed back. The phone call, the silence after, the unanswered questions. She turned to the father, her eyes filling with tears. "Is that true?" He nodded slowly, pain flickering in his eyes. "I tried to save him. I stayed behind when the car caught fire. I thought I died that night too." He looked at the boy. "When I woke up, all I could do was build a new life, one that wasn't haunted." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the child stepped forward, holding out the toy car. "Daddy fixed it again," he whispered softly. Clara stared at it, the same model her brother drove, and suddenly realized the twist. The car wasn't just a toy, it was his way of asking for forgiveness. Clara stood there for a long moment, the small toy car resting in her palm. It wasn't just plastic and tape anymore, it carried years of pain, love, and something she thought she'd never find again. Understanding. The truth had broken her open, but somehow it also made sense of everything that had been missing. The man before her wasn't a stranger anymore. He was the part of her past she'd buried, but also the only one who truly knew what it meant to lose everything and still want to fix what was left. The man in the dark coat quietly stepped back, his expression softening as he realized there was nothing more to say. The boy looked between them, sensing the shift, and gently placed his small hand over Clara's. "Daddy says broken things can shine again if you're gentle," he said, smiling shyly. Rain tapped softly against the window of the small cafe, the kind of sound that usually brought comfort, but tonight, it only deepened her loneliness. The woman sat quietly in the corner, her eyes red and tired, clutching a half-empty cup that had long gone cold. It wasn't just a bad day. It felt like her entire life had come undone in the span of a few hours. The world outside kept moving. People laughed and hurried past, but for her, everything had stopped. Just when she thought no one had noticed her tears, a small voice broke through the silence. "Please don't cry, Miss." "Daddy fixes broken things," said a little boy standing beside her table, holding a toy car with one missing wheel. His innocence caught her off guard. She forced a weak smile, unsure how to respond. The boy's eyes were bright, full of the kind of hope adults forget to carry. "He really does," he added earnestly. "He even fixed my heart once." The woman blinked, taken aback by his words. Something about the way he said it, calm, certain, like he truly believed it, stirred something inside her. But before she could ask more, a man's shadow appeared near the door, calling the boy's name. The child smiled and waved before running off, leaving her with only his words echoing in her heart. She turned toward the window again, whispering to herself, who was his father. The woman sat frozen for a moment, watching the boy disappear into the rain beside the tall man who had called him. Something about the man's steady stride and the boy's trustful hand in his gave off a strange familiarity, though she couldn't quite place it. Maybe it was the way he turned slightly, as if aware of her gaze, before stepping into the mist. She shivered and looked down at the toy car the boy had accidentally left on her table, a small, dented thing, but carefully taped together. Someone had taken the time to fix it with patience and care. Her name was Clara, and for weeks now she had been living in a blur, between heartbreak, lost work, and an apartment that no longer felt like home. She'd come to this cafe just to escape the noise of her thoughts, never expecting a stranger, especially a child, to notice her pain. His words replayed over and over, "Daddy fixes broken things." They shouldn't have meant much, but somehow they did. She turned the toy over in her hands, tracing the repaired cracks with her thumb. Each piece told a story, one of effort, of someone who refused to give up on what others would throw away. The cafe door chimed again. Clara looked up instinctively, half hoping to see the boy return. But instead, a folded note lay on the counter with her name written in a child's handwriting. Clara hesitated before walking to the counter, her heart beating faster with every step. The note looked slightly damp from the rain, the edges curled, but her name written in uneven, childlike letters was clear. She unfolded it slowly. Inside was a small drawing, a woman sitting by a window, tears falling, and next to her, a man holding a glowing heart in his hands. Underneath, in crooked handwriting, were 4 words, "Daddy can fix her too." Her chest tightened. She looked around, but the boy and his father were gone, leaving behind only questions that tangled in her mind. Who were they? How did the child know she was broken in ways no one else could see? And why did the words feel more like a promise than a coincidence? She carried the note back to her seat and stared at it, lost in thought. The cafe owner, an older woman with kind eyes, noticed her unease and came over. "You okay, dear?" she asked gently. Clara forced a small smile and nodded, but her fingers trembled as she folded the drawing. Outside, thunder rolled low across the sky and through the glass. She caught sight of the man again, standing across the street under a flickering streetlight, watching her. He looked familiar, almost painfully so, though she couldn't remember from where. Before she could move, a bus passed by, and when it cleared, he was gone. Only the toy car remained on her table, and the feeling that her past had just found her. Clara couldn't shake the image of that man's face beneath the streetlight. There was something hauntingly familiar in his posture, the quiet way he watched, not like a stranger, but like someone who already knew her story. She pressed the note tighter in her hand, her pulse quickening. The rain outside turned heavier, blurring everything beyond the window, as if the world itself wanted to hide what she'd just seen. Clara knelt down, tears glistening in her eyes, and hugged the boy, feeling a strange peace settle in her chest. She looked up at the man, her voice trembling. "Maybe it's time we stop running from what's broken." He nodded, his eyes full of silent relief. Outside, the rain had stopped, and sunlight began to peek through the clouds, glimmering off the window. As they stepped out of the cafe together, Clara looked back one last time at the table where the toy had been. Sometimes, she thought, healing doesn't come from forgetting, it comes from finally letting yourself believe that even broken things can be made whole again.